What's going on, team? How you doing? Happy Friday to you. Got a couple games for you that we're looking at. We're going to start with the 7:30 p.m. Eastern game, looking at the Celtics and the Spurs. First, we're always looking at injury reports, right? Injury report, Kemba Walker's out today, and he is actually a pretty big deal for that team. Tatum and Brown, get all the attention on the generally the headlines and stuff, but Kemba Walker is an important piece of the Celtics team, and when he's out, the team's only 12-12 straight up, so they're 50-50 straight up. That's what I've learned from bookmakers. They say lines up to 4 is a pick 'em. So this is I believe this line stretched out a little bit. We're seeing 4.5s. Celtics is a public team, right? They're a well-known brand, and you're going to see lines generally juiced that way, right? The prior matchup between the Spurs and the Celtics, the line was 4.5. So the line was Celtics minus 4.5, and that game was in San Antonio. All right, but they're now back in Boston. The line is still 4.5, and where the line should have went at least to 6. With home court advantage is about 1.5 or 2. So with the home court advantage, that should have put the line to 6. You could say, oh, that 1.5 is because Kemba Walker's out, perhaps, but that to me that number is just telling that Celtics aren't showing strength, which is what we already know. If you've been paying attention to the Celtics team, that something's up with them. Pretty much, we've been wondering this most of the year, and it's becoming more evident recently. They're 13 and 18 straight up against winning teams. Actually, both teams don't have great records, straight up records against winning teams. That's why it pushes me off of favorites. They had a sloppy cover against the Hornets the other day. The Hornets should have covered that game, but they're a young team. They haven't figured out how to win yet, so they fell apart at the end. And the Celtics lucked out and got a cover. With the full squad, the Celtics had a full squad. But still, that being said, they're only 2-4 against the spread in their last 6, and their only wins, the only covers, were against the flat Suns. I think the Suns were coming back after a long road trip, and they just caught the Suns at a bad time, and so I don't put much weight in that. And then the Hornets, I just mentioned, it was kind of a lucky cover there. So 2 kind of lucky covers out of the last 6 games, not impressive, and that's with full squads. And this team is just not good. And so they're with teams like this right now, it's a fade or a pass, meaning you're fading them or you're just passing on the game altogether, because you don't want to be laying points with teams like the Celtics are right now. We're looking at the Spurs side now, and as far as injuries go for the Spurs, all we have is White out, and so it's I like to have him in, but it's not going to push me off aside if I was liking the Spurs. So I wouldn't consider him too big of a deal. And like I mentioned earlier, I think the line should have went to 6 if it was showing strength to the Celtics side. I think we would have seen a number greater than 6, but we're not. And the Spurs are simply playing better basketball right now. They're 18 and 11 straight up on the road. That's a strong trend, and that could help me look past their record versus winning teams, which is similar with the Celtics. It's a losing record versus winning teams. But on the road, Spurs are dogs, and now they're getting 2 possessions really with 4.5 points. They're 5-1-1 against the spread in their last 7, or 5-2 if you weren't lucky enough to get the 5 in the last game. Versus the Heat, it closed at 4.5. But if you're able to get a 5, you would have pushed on that. So that's a solid ATS record there to be riding right now. They're also tied for the 8 seed. They're tied for the 8 seed with Memphis, and Memphis is playing the Magic today. You can chalk that up as a win. I ain't playing that game. I ain't laying those points, but I expect the Memphis to win today. And that being said, if Spurs want to stay tied there, they don't want to drop lower in the seeds, they got to win today. They got to win this game. And with Walker out, it's a prime spot for them to do that. So, looking at the more motivated team, the team that's playing better, the team that seems to be gelling better, there's no question marks around the Spurs right now. Folks have been kind of wondering what's going on with the Celtics for the last month or two. That hasn't changed at all. And so there is absolutely no way you'll find me laying points with the Celtics today. And so I will happily be taking the 4.5 points with the Spurs. And I think they went outright. I think they went outright today. So Spurs plus 4.5 is my first play of the day today. We're gonna look at a late game, 10 o'clock Eastern, Jazz and the Suns. This is gonna be a fun one to watch. Let's talk about it. So let's look at the Jazz. The Jazz. Now keep in mind, Donovan Mitchell is gone, right? If you don't know, Donovan Mitchell has been hurt. He's gone for a year, and that's a big piece to this Utah Jazz team. Since Donovan Mitchell's been gone, the Jazz are 3-3 against the spread. Their wins, not impressive. Their 3 covers were against the Lakers on a revenge game, like a back-to-back revenge game. The Rockets and the Kings. Okay, so you got that revenge angle, not too surprising. That happens, especially with a team of the Jazz caliber. The Rockets and the Kings are trash can teams that the Jazz should win. So neither one of those 3 covers is surprising. And then their 3 losses were against the Lakers on the first game of their back-to-back series, and then they lost to the Timberwolves twice. So that's not good. So this last stretch of this 6-game stretch without Donovan Mitchell has been a challenge for Utah, and they haven't, out of those games, none of those are on the level that the Suns are right now. So already that's not looking good. Just looking at the matchup, the Jazz have a 1-game lead over the Suns right now, and they've lost both prior matchups already this year to the Suns by 11 points and 4 points. The prior lines was Jazz -4, Jazz -2.5. And now today we're looking at Jazz plus 4.5. All right, that's a lot of line moves, and that's telling you that, you know, the Jazz probably ain't the side in this anymore. Just for this matchup, let alone the current situation with the Jazz. I think it's just really late in the season for the Jazz to find a new formula, right, without Mitchell. And they are searching. I think they're searching on a game-by-game basis to find something that can work, and that's a tough spot to be in when you got folks coming for you, right? And I believe the Suns are coming for them today. You know, the Jazz have only shot 45% from the field once since Mitchell's been gone. They're gonna need some points to keep up with this Suns team today. Let's look at the Suns side. I think you already kind of tell where I'm going here, but let's look at the Suns side. The Suns' ATS record also isn't that impressive, but we always look deeper into things. Suns are 3-1 against the spread in their last 7, but they played a really tough schedule. I was just capping on the Jazz and how their ATS record is crap against crap teams. But the Suns' record is essentially the same, but they played pretty much all playoff teams with the exception of one. You know, they played in this stretch of last 7 games, they played the Clippers, the Knicks, the Nets, the Celtics, not a playoff team, the 76ers, the Bucks, and the Spurs. That's a tough stretch, and they still went 3-1. So it's their second game at home after a long road trip. Usually that first game at home, I was leaning Suns in their last game there at home, but it's just really tough for me to get on a back a team after that really long road trip. So happy to see them win that, but I really like them today after they have 2 days rest, their second game home. And like I said, I believe they're coming for that 1 seed today. I think they see a weakened Jazz team. They're a healthy, rested, determined Phoenix Suns team with Chris Paul leading them. I put my faith in CP and Booker that they're going to get it done today. They're more motivated. They're more cohesive. I think they have more desire today in this game. So I'll lay the points. I found a 4 at MGM, so I laid the 4 there. For the hook official picks today, we have the Spurs plus 4.5, and we have the Suns -4. Best of luck, everybody.